Hi, my name is Abubakar Salim. I play Bayek in Assassin's Creed Origins. I auditioned for it through my acting agent, thinking that it was a animated TV series. It was advertised as an animated TV series, and with motion capture. And yeah, so it was like a standard audition. Got into the room, had sides, did my lines, and then got to the second round. And then at the second round, they told me it was for a video game, for Assassin's Creed, to which I lost my mind. And and they ended up saying that, okay, so because it's for motion capture, and because it's for the video game, the way that they did the audition and the way that they filmed the audition was that they used a bigger space. So there wasn't any tight shots, so there wasn't any sitting down or standing. It was, they wanted to see me move. And I remember that process being really different to other auditions, because normally you're just sitting down and it's still and it's all within the face. Whereas in this one specifically, they wanted your body. And yeah, so that was how I got into it, really. Yeah. There is this huge, realm of possibilities because you got to think of the player. I think there's a lot of, you've got to really think of, the player choices, and you've got to be able to perform, with the same intensity depending on what the player chooses. And so, there's a lot more stories, there's a lot more branching off. Whereas, film and TV is quite linear, video game, it's very much like a tree. It could branch down this way, or it could branch the other way, or, so you've got all these other choices that you've got to play with. And it's a challenge. It is a challenge, but at the same time, it's so much fun. It is so liberating, because it goes back to that feeling of, okay, let's imagine that we are over here, or let's imagine we made this choice. So you've got all these different things to play with. So this is the thing, right? So I remember getting the fact that it was a video game and thinking that this is a video game character completely made up. And I remember thinking, okay, I could either play this guy as a stereotypical superhero video game character who does, one thing and becomes a hero, or I could see him as a human being. And I think what is so exciting and fascinating about video games nowadays, anyway, is that the stories in which we are being given, which we are, being fed to us as players, are very human stories, are very relatable stories. And so, yeah, the way I approached Bayek was as a man first, as a human being who is in these circumstances which are tough, but at the same time, it's not that he is the superhero of the day. He's just a man going through these events. So yeah, that's the kind of way I went to approach it. I did a lot of research in ancient Egypt. I tried to read as much as I could. We were very hands-on with the team as well, the historians of Ubisoft, and they kind of, they were there telling us about, the history of ancient Egypt. And, when it came to dialect and stuff, because again, we've got no recordings of dialect. We had to sort of not necessarily make it up, but we had to create something that the player could sort of relate to, but at the same time, keep them immersed. But when it came to actually, going through, different sort of rituals and, different, language and dialect and all this sort of stuff, it was, there are, we have lots of ancient Egyptian words that we use, Egyptian words even, that we use in the game, to keep that flavor there. Came to approaching, bringing the character alive, again, like different techniques and that, like, again, it's like creating a character for TV or film. You start at the the beginning, where it's like, okay, what's his motivation, and then you drive from there, and then you add the historical element on top of that, and it just begins to form. Motion capture is so different to theatre and film. It's like a weird hybrid, actually. I personally found it incredibly liberating and so freeing. I think Andy Serkis says it's like the purest form of acting, and I can see that because usually on film and TV and even at theatre you get props. You've got the costume, you've got something to kind of anchor yourself to be like, okay, I am in the 1920s or I am in the future. Whereas in motion capture, you've got none of that. You've got just the suit, yourself, these weird balls, dots on your face, a huge helmet with a camera and lights, and it's you've got to imagine yourself being in this hot desert, and when actually you're in a warehouse with 200 odd cameras flashing blue lights at you, and you've got to really imagine. You've got to really imagine that the person, opposite you is this really evil enemy decked out in all this crazy armor. You've got to imagine you're holding a sword, which is a stick, or a shield, which is a dustbin lid. You've got to imagine all these things, and it's liberating and freeing, because this is the stuff that you did as kids. This is why I got into acting anyway. It's playing all these stories. So yeah, it is incredibly liberating and very challenging and different, but so much fun. I'd say the most difficult probably was the turnover of scenes that we had to do. We were doing 15 scenes a day, and there was a lot of lines to learn, because it is a video game. There's massive amounts of dialogue. So yeah, there was a lot of that going on. That was quite challenging. But then you get into a rhythm of it. And what was so great about working on Assassin's Creed with Ubisoft is that they still allowed you time to play. And you could really play. And because of, the cameras were all set, everything was kind of, there wasn't time in changing, positions of camera and all angles, because that's all done in the editing room. So there was still a lot of time to play. But as an actor, it was very hard to get the script the next day, track down the story of where it's where it is, learn the lines, and then do it. And that was quite a challenge. Oh man, tons of fun. And the fact that the team were so, there's so much, and that's another thing. There was so much love in the actual team itself that it felt like it just felt easy in a way. Everything. It felt quite. There was a flow to it. There was a fluidity to it, which was brilliant. I think there is so much to mine from that way of storytelling. I think video games it was my way in. I remember as a kid, I was dyslexic. I couldn't read books. TV shows and films I didn't really connect to, because there wasn't any person I could really connect to. But video games, because it is so interactive and it involves you, in the story and going on this journey with this character, it was so cool to kind of get involved in. So I love the idea of being able to tell a story that way, through a video game, through someone going on this journey with me interactively, spending hundreds of hours with me, seeing this world that has been created by these people who really love what they're doing. And yeah, I think I definitely want to venture more into that and see more into that and play more into that. Absolutely. The one thing that I've tried to really do is just focus on my own journey, not compare myself to other, my peers, and just try and just do what I love and kind of keep that love going and keep fighting and keep going, because it is tough. It's I could be working now. I could be doing these great interviews now, and then I could, in a month's time, I'd be at home twiddling my thumbs, probably playing my game. But it can shift and change so quickly. But I think there is that, if you really want to do it, and you really feel like this is for me, just keep going. It'll happen. It will happen, because the more you kind of give off to the universe, it will give back in some way, shape, and form. So yeah, just keep going.